Hi, my name is Angelique Montez, and the title of my project is The Effects of Interest Convergence Within the Music Industry on M.I.A.'s Career.
How's the response been to the album? Are you pleased with how people have reacted to it?
I don't think people know I put out an album. Yeah.
I think people do.
I don't think people know I put out an album is not a phrase you would expect to hear from Beyonce or Taylor Swift. Aptly characterized as high-earning brands with enormous fan bases, mainstream artists are well promoted and supported by the music industry. When artists' goals align with the industry's goals to transform its cultural products into financial rewards, it is easier to succeed at those shared goals. However, what happens to the artist whose goals do not align with the industry's goals? Is it possible to be considered mainstream, diverge from the industry's goals, and still be successful? It all depends on what it means to be successful. In the eyes of the music industry, success equals making maximum profits. However, for rapper M.I.A., success can be better defined as being able to spread maximum awareness about global injustices, while also expressing her creative influences through her music. Knowing this, I will be using Derek Bell's theory of interest convergence to discuss how M.I.A.'s personally defined success has been affected by the music industry's definition of success. The quote, "I don't think people know I put out an album," was not said by Beyonce or Taylor Swift. In fact, it was M.I.A.'s response to a reporter asking her about her most recently released album around 4 years ago. Although M.I.A.'s fan base has never reached the numbers of the aforementioned megastars, she has still attained a level of prominence that is considered significant. Knowing this, how is it that she had this response when asked about her album? She also has not released a major musical work since then. This discussion will shed light on how the music industry has both strengthened and diminished her career, and the role of interest convergence to better understand why. Interest convergence is a theory proposed by lawyer, professor, and activist Derek Bell. It is also a tenet of the recently infamous critical race theory. Using Broad versus Board of Education as a case study, Bell suggests that the favorable result to Blacks in that case might not simply be due to changed hearts within the Supreme Court. Instead, he suggests that racial justice or its appearance may from time to time be counted among the interests deemed important by the courts and by the society's policymakers. He pinpoints the US's Cold War strategy of saving face by granting equal rights to all, the desire to appease post-World War II disillusioned Blacks, and the industrialization of the South as implicit reasons for the historic Supreme Court decision. Derek does not doubt that some acted on a moral basis. However, the number who would act on morality alone was insufficient to bring about the desired racial reform. It is through this theory that I will be discussing the advancements and hindrances M.I.A. has experienced via the music industry. Rapper Matangi Maya Arupragasam is better known by her stage name M.I.A. Much of M.I.A.'s career is centered around her identity as a Sri Lankan Tamil refugee. Although she was born in London, her family moved to Sri Lanka during her infancy and experienced hardship due to the Sri Lankan Civil War and her father's involvement with the Tamil Tigers rebel group. Maya's family fled for London given her father's role in the Civil War when she was 10 years old. Although her original dream was to become a documentarian, M.I.A. released her single titled Galang in 2003. Her music created a big splash in the underground music scene. She began receiving mainstream acclaim in 2008 with her single Paper Planes, her first song to chart outside of the UK and around the globe. The success of that single brought her a Grammy nomination and an Oscar nomination for her involvement with Slumdog Millionaire. Despite those accolades, M.I.A.'s 5 minutes of mainstream fame was truly short-lived, and it became evident that the rapper's material gains were not her means for success. Instead, her desire to use her platform to spread awareness about the injustices occurring against Tamil people in Sri Lanka was used against her, as that did not align with the music industry's plan for her. While I have been using the phrase the music industry, I think it is important to acknowledge that the term is quite vague, as there are many things that could fall within that category. John Williamson and Martin Clunan make an argument for saying music industries instead, as it is more accurate and recognizes the reality of how broad the sector is. For the sake of clarity and precision, I will be using the phrase, quote, the music industry, the industry, or the pop music industry interchangeably throughout this discussion to refer to the recording, releasing/selling, and marketing of popular music. Once done by multiple venues and on a smaller scale, these individual processes have now been consolidated by large corporate record companies who make major profits off artists and consumers. This desire for profit is the motor behind the machine that is the pop music industry. That oftentimes includes promoting a breakout star like M.I.A., who has an international fan base with potential for a broad reach. However, when artists like M.I.A. want to use that reach for things other than capital gain, the industry does not always accommodate them. Tamil refugee born in England, M.I.A.'s identity is one that sets her apart from most rappers in the music industry, at least in the US. Her identity as a brown South Asian woman was especially novel considering when she started her music career, 2 years after the 9/11 attacks and at a time where Orientalist sentiments were especially prominent. Despite this, her identity was not a complete hindrance since she started from the underground hip hop scene, which has a history of being more accepting of marginal identities than mainstream music scenes. Starting from this place allowed her the freedom to be able to experiment with different samples, instrumentations, and effects that resulted in a unique soundscape. This unique sound was a combination of samplings from an 808 drum machine, Sri Lankan drumming patterns, electronica/techno dance music, all while adding her distinct chant-like rapping style onto her lyrics, which often functioned as satire of the status quo.
London calling, speak the slang now. Boy say what? One girl say what? What? London calling, speak the slang now. Boy say what? One girl say what? What? Slam. Galang galang galang. Gala 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 lang galang galang. Shotgun get down. Get down get down get down. Get a down get down get down. Galang lang purple haze.
This originality in music making, along with her ethnic identity, created a persona that had never been given a major platform in the music industry before. Her breakout single, Paper Planes, well known for its catchy flow and chorus characterized by gunshots and the sound of a cash register opening, is also a commentary on corrupt governments, refugees, and fears about immigration.
Bonafide hustler, making my name. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money.
The music industry wasn't the only force that aided in M.I.A.'s initial success. The rise of internet culture also emerged during this time, reflecting what the average person and consumer was interested in. Given these conditions for material success, it may seem strange to posit that the music industry would try to inhibit this groundbreaking new artist. As previously mentioned, the success from Paper Planes brought more opportunities for M.I.A. to broaden her platform with major accolades like Grammy and Oscar nominations. However, this success, as defined by the music industry, was dependent on whether she would cooperate with the status quo. M.I.A. is not one to choose cooperation over what she deems as truth-telling. 2 years after the success of Paper Planes, she released another single titled Born Free in 2010, along with a 9-minute long music video / short film. The video garnered a lot of criticism for its graphic depiction of genocide against red-haired white people, which is what M.I.A. used to visually reference the genocide of Tamil people in Sri Lanka during the Civil War. During her rise in fame, after her first major single success, M.I.A. attempted to use her platform to talk about and advocate for Tamil people with little success. The video seems to have been in reaction to the silence that she received. The lyrics in the first hook of the song also seem to suggest this.
Yeah, I don't wanna live for tomorrow. I push my life today. I throw this in your face when I see ya. I got something to say. I throw this shit in your face when I see ya, 'cause I got something to say.
M.I.A. is proclaiming that she's throwing imagery of genocide and violence in people's face in a manner that might hit closer to home for some people, as a means of trying to communicate and express her experience of watching her people face genocide. The media and industry response to this was retaliatory. YouTube banned the video for a time, and she was accused of being a terrorist sympathizer due to her father's association with the Tamil Tigers by the press. Her next big single, however, Bad Girls, was released 2 years later and was well received due to the video being about women empowerment, particularly in the Middle East. While this song is still typical of M.I.A.'s social / political commentary style of music, it is within the scope of topics that the music industry knows they can still market to a wide audience and in turn profit from. This is an example of both M.I.A.'s threshold for success, speaking out for women's rights, and the music industry's threshold for success, marketability, and profit overlapping, thus creating no reason for conflict or retaliation. M.I.A. has not had a major global chart-topping single since. The next album she released was in 2016.
How's the response been to the album? Are you pleased with how people have reacted to it?
I don't think people know I put out an album. Yeah.
I think
This was the response she gave when asked about its release. While she had been the topic of controversy here and there, her music releases have not received much shine in the mainstream pop music space. Interest Convergence offers one theory to explain this failure: the music industry's lack of support for her music, given that they have since found other artists with shared values of success to profit off of. Perhaps M.I.A. no longer wants to participate in a system where the means of success are not shared. If M.I.A.'s definition of success is to spread awareness of global injustices, how can she use the platform available to her by the large corporate music industry? Interest Convergence proposes that she will only be able to use and multiply her platform to the extent that powerful interests in the music industry align with the meaning in her music. And yeah, thank you for listening.
look, I think people do.